Hello, everyone. Welcome to week number 2 in Biology 120. I'm so glad that you're still here. I'm so glad that we've gotten to know each other through the discussion board postings this week. That's all been very interesting. Every term is a new one, and I have different personalities and people with different majors and interests and live in different places, which makes my job exciting, to tell you the truth. Let's see what we've got going on this week. So in that first week, you learned what biology was, the study of life. There's my cat meowing. Sorry about that. Richard, come here. So life consists of different characteristics, and we as scientists say that you can only determine that something is living if it meets all of the characteristics. Now, granted, people put together these lists in different ways. Some people only have 4 characteristics of life, but when they do that, they just put some of these together that we took a look at. I think I had 9 in my list. So you learned about the characteristics of life, and we also talked about the scientific method and how important it is, and it's something really important these days because so many people are just using anecdotal information out there to make huge, important decisions about our health and about our lives, especially in the United States these days. And so it is very important to understand how science works. That all science is based on evidence and data, and we don't come to any acknowledgement of information or decisions about things based on just opinions. That just doesn't happen in science. You base it on evidence. And so this is terribly important to understand. We'll be talking about it some more in the coming weeks. All right, this week is all about the chemistry of life. And you're going, Dr. Sigmon, this is a biology class. Why do I have to take some chemistry? Because all of life is based on chemistry, atoms, molecules, right? That's what we're made up of. And so we have to have a basic understanding of that. And you get that in this week. So here you go. We will get it over with in week 2. I told you in the very beginning that I would tell you whether you needed to read in detail a particular chapter in the textbook or whether you could just skim it. All right, here we go. I'm suggesting that you skim chapters 2 and 3 in your OpenStax Biology 2nd edition textbook. Remember, free textbook, can't do better than that. And is searchable, so use that feature too. So chapters 2 and 3 are about inorganic and organic molecules. An organic molecule is just one that has carbons and hydrogens. And of course, organic means it's of organisms. That's what organic means. Inorganic would be other molecules like water molecules, like carbon dioxide molecules, which are very important to life too, but they don't make up an organism. They're used by organisms and produced by organisms, yes. So take a look at chapters 2 and 3. Just skim through them so you know where everything is, all the information is. And then specifically look up information about water. So water is found in every single cell, period. It's not found in viruses. Remember how we had that question last week about the Pandora viruses? Water is found in every single cell on the planet. And that tells you that water plays a tremendously important role in organisms, and in particular in cells. The most important characteristic that I think the water has is that it absorbs a tremendous amount of heat before it changes state. So before liquid water becomes steam, it can absorb a lot of energy. Well, what's that got to do with cells? All this biochemistry is happening inside cells, and with every single chemical reaction that happens, a little bit of heat is released. And so water has to be present to absorb all that heat, or else cells would just burn up. Then carbon is the element of life. And why is carbon important? This is one of the questions that you have to answer. The most important characteristic of carbon is that it can form 4 different bonds with other atoms or molecules. And that means that a backbone of carbon can produce a very large, very complex molecule. And if we say a large molecule, we mean macromolecule. Macro means big, right? So we're going to talk about macromolecules of life. There are 4 basic groups of the organic macromolecules. Remember, organic just means in organisms, and macro just means big. Here they are: carbohydrates, lipids, also known as fats, oils and waxes. Those are the lipids. We've got proteins. All of these sound really familiar, don't they? Everybody talks about these all the time. Low carb diet. I'm drinking a protein shake today, right? Yeah, because they have to do with our diets. That's because we have to take in these macromolecules in order for us to survive. And then finally, the 4th group is the nucleic acids, which includes DNA, RNA, the energy molecule ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So you need to look at those 4 groups of organic molecules. I told you to skim chapters 2 and 3, but look particularly at the Module 2 overview. They have a really good table about the functions of carbohydrates, sugars, starches, etc. Lipids, fats, oils, waxes, proteins. You know what proteins are, right? But the major group of proteins that are so important to cells are the enzymes, which carry out all the biochemistry in cells. Enzymes are proteins. And nucleic acids, I already explained about them. So take a look at that Module 2 overview, because it gives a really compact, succinct definition of these 4 different groups of organic molecules, and it tells you what their functions are. Very important. All right, so what do you have due this week? You have discussion board postings due. Once again this week, weeks 1 through 6, you have discussion board postings. The initial post is due by Thursday. The 2 response posts are due by Sunday, every single week that you do discussion board postings. The initial post, you will discuss the importance of macromolecules, those 4 groups of organic molecules, and water in cells. So you want to talk about the functions of the macromolecules. You want to talk about the function of water in cells. Okay? That's going to be very important. And I've sort of skimmed over that already. And you're going to complete the equation. Food, that's your macromolecules, plus water, plus some mysterious factor X equals life. What would you say factor X would be? It's always interesting to see what everybody says about this. What would factor X be besides food and water to equal life? So let's see what you come up with. That's your initial post. Then in your 2 response posts, you're going to talk about nucleic acids after, that 4th group of macromolecules. After you take a look at a food label. I bet you already know that carbs are on food labels, that fats are on food labels, and that proteins are on food labels. But do you remember seeing that 4th group, the nucleic acids? There must be a reason for this. And the reason is you need to look at the structure of the components of nucleic acids. These are called nucleotides. Nucleotides are the little subunits. Take a look at them. Take a look at them. That will explain maybe why nucleic acids are not on food labels, because maybe they're made up of other molecules that we already mentioned. So take a look at that. Those are your 2 response posts to your fellow classmates. All right, then you have a journal entry, a journal assignment on the properties of carbon. We talked about why carbon was so important, those 4 bonds that it can form and make very large, complex molecules, and the link between carbon, fossil fuels, carbon dioxide, climate change. Yeah, all those are connected. And there is a video for you to watch about the formation of fossil fuels, and this will help you very much in writing your journal assignment for week number 2. Watch reliable sources video and look at the Shapiro Library website. Also, we have a tremendous resource in that Shapiro Library. You can get so many full text articles when you do searches in the Shapiro Library that you do not have access to in any other way. There are some other search engines that you can use, and I will be talking about those. But that Shapiro Library is tremendous, a tremendous asset to all of us. I use it all the time because I can get free full-text articles. Yeah, that's the operative word there, free. Yeah, you can get full-text articles, but you have to pay for them. Not with the Shapiro Library. So take a look at it. It's very important, it's very helpful, and it's free because you pay tuition. All right. Oh, by the way, these are dolphins strand feeding off the coast of South Carolina. This is a behavior that they have where they work together cooperatively, come in different directions, herd up a school of fish toward the shore, scare them up onto the shore, and then come out of the water and eat them. Okay, here we go. Also, you're going to be looking at the final project topics this week. Let me move my face over so you can see them all. You're going to be looking at the final project topics this week. You need to pick one this week. You don't have to do anything with it, but you need to pick one and start thinking about it. So for the rest of the term, you are going to do research about all different aspects of one of these topics related to biology. These are all in the news. There are more. And if you can think of something different that you like to do, you will email me and ask me if you can use that. But I'm going to quickly go over these very quickly so that you have an idea of what we're talking about. So population ecology. There are many biologists in the world that study populations of organisms, whether it's in algae that create red tides or deer populations in your community or elm trees in a forest. They're all different ways to study populations, and they're all different biologists in the world that study them. And there are issues having to do with this. When wolves were reintroduced into Yellowstone, then the elk population was knocked back down, and this encouraged the forest to come back because elk were just stripping all the trees of all the bark and eating all the vegetation. And so the reintroduction of wolves has actually changed the ecology of Yellowstone National Park. So population ecology is a good one. Air pollution, you know what it is. This really came to light during the pandemic when people didn't drive into work, and the air quality of the cities was just tremendously improved. If you go back and look at the pictures of that, it is amazing. There is no smog over Los Angeles. There is no smog over Mexico City. So air pollution, very big problem. We don't want to breathe in pollutants. Water pollution. Richard. Water pollution is the same thing. We don't want to drink polluted water, right? And there are so many issues having to do with this. There are all different ways that water gets polluted. So that could be your topic. The energy crisis and using alternative forms of energy. Very important these days, especially with the cost of gasoline right now. We are going to change, I promise. Eutrophication, this is really the aging out of bodies of water, and it also includes red tides and algal blooms and that sort of thing. That's very interesting if you live near a body of water, whether it's the ocean or a lake. You probably have heard of eutrophication. The human population is estimated in 2050 that we will hit 9 billion people on this planet. We just reached 8 billion a couple of years ago. So our population is burgeoning. Things are happening, and can we take care of this many people? That's a good question. Genetic modification. So you can choose GMOs, genetically modified organisms like crop plants that we use to produce lots of our food, or just genetic modification in people or any aspect of that topic. Deforestation, we're cutting down so many trees across the globe, and that is creating all kinds of problems because, of course, trees take in carbon dioxide, which we're producing too much of because we burn fossil fuel. And there's so many species that we're losing because of deforestation. A very important topic. Biodiversity is important in ecosystems, so we've got to have lots of different organisms that live together in an ecosystem. And when we don't, then sometimes we have endangered species. And so that's a good topic. Global warming and climate change, very important. You all know this, but it's still a very important topic that we have to solve. Waste management. Waste management is important because we, as human beings especially, produce a lot of waste. Plastics pollution is one of my favorite topics because plastic is everywhere, and microplastics, and are they ending up in our bodies? Well, maybe you could research that and find out if you're interested in it. Or a topic of your choice, as I mentioned, but you have to run it past me. You have to email me. I have to approve it. If you turn in something in week 3 about this topic and you have not talked to me about it, I will be emailing you because it may not be a biology topic. I've had some students, especially in psychology, who want to choose something about, I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, like just stress. Okay, but if it's stress that's related to the biology in some way, even our genetics, yep, because that could be, that would be okay. But if it's just stress, no, that's not going to be a good topic for our biology class. So please ask me if you're interested in a different topic. And finally, in my hints and tips, this will be important this week because if you don't do it this week for that journal assignment, I guarantee you're going to miss the first question. Jot down a list of things to answer for each assignment. And I mean, just on a little slip of paper, write it down on your phone, in the notes section, wherever, it doesn't really matter. Just jot down a list. Not full sentences, just a couple of words to remind you that you need to cover this and this and this and this. Why do I say that you're probably going to miss something in that in that journal assignment for week 2? Because there's a question at the very beginning about carbon. And most people look on down and see the big collection of questions that they have to answer and forget that first one at the top. So do try this. Jot down a list of things to answer for each assignment. Oh, this is a fish eagle from Africa. Isn't it beautiful? We saw lots of them in Africa. They were just gorgeous. So anyway, I hope that you have a wonderful week number 2. It's Mother's Day as I'm making this video, and I've had a wonderful Mother's Day. I hope that you have too if you're a mother, and if you're not a mother, then you had a mother or have a mother, and so I hope you got to celebrate with her or you got to think about her during this day. I hope that you have a wonderful week number 2, and let me know if you need anything. m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I'm here for you. Have a great week.